The courtroom is silent, except for the soft shuffle of papers and the rustle of clothing. A single mother stands at the front of the room, her face streaked with tears. She's been accused of shoplifting, but there's more to her story than what's written on the legal documents in front of the judge. The people around her sit in their seats, eyes fixed on the woman who is clearly overwhelmed by the situation. She wipes her eyes quickly, trying to regain some composure. Her hands tremble as she clutches the edge of the desk, but it's no use. The tears keep falling. At the front of the room, the judge watches her closely, his face unreadable. His sharp gaze shifts from the woman to the papers in front of him, but he says nothing. He's heard cases like this before. Theft is theft, and the law is the law. But something about this situation feels different. The mother stands there, desperate and vulnerable. She's not just facing charges in a courtroom. She's facing the weight of everything she's been trying to keep together. It's clear this is no ordinary case, but will the judge see that? The judge clears his throat, finally breaking the silence. "Why don't you tell me what happened?" he asks, his voice calm but stern. The mother's hands shake as she steps forward, her voice cracking as she begins to speak. "I didn't mean to steal," she says, looking down at her feet. "I know what I did was wrong, but I had no choice." She pauses, glancing up at the judge before continuing. "My name is Maria. I've been a single mother for 3 years. I lost my job about a month ago. Things have been getting harder and harder ever since. I've been applying for work everywhere, but no one is hiring. Every day I watch my children grow hungrier. I've sold almost everything I own just to keep food on the table." She wipes her eyes again, sniffling as she chokes out the next words. "Yesterday I was at the store. I didn't have enough money to buy milk, bread, or baby formula for my youngest. My kids were starving. I couldn't take it anymore, so I took what I needed. I didn't want to. I didn't see another way out." Her voice trembles and the room feels heavy with the weight of her confession. The judge leans back in his chair, his hands folded in front of him, but he doesn't interrupt. He lets her speak, listening carefully. "I tried to ask for help, but no one seems to care," Maria continues. "I've been to every food bank, every shelter, every charity I can find. I've begged, but nothing has worked. I'm just trying to survive, to make sure my kids have a future." She's crying now, her shoulders shaking as she lowers her head in shame. "I know it's wrong. I never wanted to be here. But I couldn't watch my kids go hungry anymore." There's a long pause. Maria stands there, her chest heaving with sobs. She waits for the judge to pass judgment, knowing whatever comes next will decide her future. The courtroom is filled with tension. The moment Maria finishes speaking, a heavy silence falls over the room. People exchange uneasy glances, unsure of how to react. Some look at her with sympathy, others with disbelief. But no one seems unmoved by her words. The weight of her struggle hangs in the air, thick and undeniable. The store owner, who's been quietly sitting in the back of the room, stands up when the judge calls on him. His eyes narrow slightly as he approaches the front, holding a folder with the evidence of the theft. He looks at Maria, but there's no sign of compassion in his face. He seems uncomfortable, but it's clear he's determined to make his case. "She stole from my store," the store owner says, his voice steady. "There are security cameras showing her putting the items in her bag. No one can deny what happened. We have a policy, and I'm here to see it through." He places the evidence in front of the judge and looks at Maria, his expression unchanged. The prosecutor then stands up, pushing his glasses up his nose as he prepares to speak. "Your Honor, the facts are clear. This woman committed theft. There is no room for leniency when it comes to breaking the law. Theft is theft, and the penalty must be applied." Maria keeps her head bowed, too ashamed to look up. Her breath is shallow, each sob a reminder of the hopelessness she feels. The weight of the courtroom's judgment feels like it's suffocating her. The judge sits silently, his gaze moving from the prosecutor to the store owner and then back to Maria. Everyone waits, holding their breath as they wonder what he will decide. The judge leans forward, his hands resting on the desk. His eyes flicker between Maria, the prosecutor, and the store owner. He doesn't speak immediately, instead taking his time, letting the room sit in the uncomfortable quiet. Maria's heart races, her palms sweaty as she waits for the verdict. She knows she has little hope, She's already feeling like a criminal, the weight of her actions sinking deeper with every passing second. The thought of jail, the thought of being separated from her children, terrifies her. She can't bear it. Finally, the judge speaks, his voice calm but firm. "I understand the law, and I understand that you broke it," he says, turning his attention to Maria. "But I also understand that there are circumstances in life that drive people to do things they wouldn't otherwise." Maria looks up, startled by his words. The judge's eyes soften just slightly as he continues, but there's no sign of mercy in his tone. "You've admitted what you did. You didn't try to hide it. You've shown remorse, and I believe you when you say this wasn't something you intended. But that doesn't change the fact that you still broke the law." The room holds its breath. The prosecutor nods, waiting for the judge to deliver the penalty, expecting a typical ruling, possibly jail time or at least community service. But then the judge asks a question that catches everyone off guard. "What did you steal?" His voice is steady, but the question seems to hang in the air for a long moment. Maria blinks, confused. "Bread, milk, baby formula," she replies hesitantly. The judge sighs deeply, his eyes shifting toward the store owner. "You see," he says, "she didn't steal a designer handbag or expensive electronics. She stole food to feed her children." The store owner shifts uncomfortably but says nothing. The judge turns his gaze to him, his expression unreadable. "Do you agree that the law is the law and theft is theft?" "Yes," the store owner replies, his voice low but firm. "But do you also understand that this is a different kind of case?" The judge presses. "This isn't about greed or malice. This is a woman who felt she had no other choice." The store owner looks at the judge, his gaze flicking to Maria, then back to the judge. After a long pause, he mutters, "Yes, I understand." The judge nods. Then, without warning, he takes out his wallet, pulls out several bills, and places them in front of him. "I'm fining myself for this." Calmly, the room falls silent. The prosecutor's eyes widen. The store owner looks stunned, his mouth slightly agape. The bailiff stands still, unsure of what to do. The judge continues, his tone unchanging. "I'll pay the fine. I'll make sure your store is compensated for the theft." The courtroom is in disbelief. The judge's words echo in the silence, and the weight of his decision lingers in the air. Maria is still standing, shocked, her breath caught in her chest. No one expected this. No one even imagined it could happen. The judge looks at her then, his eyes gentle. "You won't go to jail. But I need you to remember something. Compassion, like justice, is part of the law. You've made a mistake, but you've also shown me the truth of your heart." The courtroom is still, the silence almost deafening. Maria stands frozen, her mind racing to process what just happened. The judge's decision was nothing like she'd expected. Instead of the harsh punishment she feared, there was an act of kindness, an act of understanding. The judge leans forward, his gaze shifting from Maria to the people in the courtroom. His voice is calm, but there's an undeniable weight to his words. Justice must be served, but justice alone isn't enough. He begins, "There are times when the law must be tempered with compassion. You, Mrs. Maria, are not a criminal. You are a mother who did what she thought was necessary to care for her children. And no law, no matter how strict, should forget that truth." Maria looks up at him, her eyes wide, as the tears she thought had dried start to fall again. But this time, it's not from fear. It's from relief, from a sense of gratitude she hadn't even known she could feel. She chokes out a thank you, her voice trembling. The judge doesn't respond directly to her. Instead, he addresses the courtroom. "We all have responsibilities, but no one should ever have to choose between following the law and feeding their children. That's a choice no one should face." His eyes sweep over the room, making sure his words are heard by everyone present. We live in a society where compassion should not be a rarity but a necessity. He then turns his attention back to Maria. "You are not the first person to make a difficult choice in desperate circumstances. And you won't be the last. But your story is one that speaks to something deeper. It speaks to the fact that the system doesn't always work for everyone, and that's something we must all work to change." Maria nods, wiping her eyes as she listens intently. She had never expected anyone to understand. She certainly never imagined a judge, Someone she thought would be distant and unfeeling would see beyond her actions and understand the struggle behind them. The judge leans back in his chair, his eyes softening just a little. I'm not asking you to forget what you've done, but I am asking you to remember that one mistake doesn't define you. You are more than what happened in this courtroom today. You are a mother, and a mother's love for her children is not something to be judged harshly. The room is still, everyone hanging on his every word. The judge's gaze flicks to the store owner one last time. What about you? He asks gently. What would you do if you were in her shoes? The store owner shifts uncomfortably, but this time there's a change in his expression. He seems to soften, perhaps for the first time, truly understanding the gravity of the situation. I would have done the same, he says quietly, the words carrying more weight than any fine or punishment could have. Maria's breath catches in her throat. The simple acknowledgement of her pain is enough to break down the wall she's built around herself. It's not just the judge's decision that has shocked everyone. It's this moment of collective humanity that no one saw coming. The atmosphere in the courtroom shifts. The judge's words hang in the air, and for a moment, no one knows how to react. But as the silence stretches on, something unexpected happens. A lawyer sitting near the back of the room stands up. He's been listening intently to everything that's transpired, his gaze shifting from the judge to Maria, and then back to the judge again. He clears his throat, and everyone turns to him. I couldn't help but overhear your situation, the lawyer says, his voice firm but compassionate. I know how hard it is to find work, especially as a single mother. I'm a family lawyer, and I'd like to offer my services. I'll help you with whatever legal matters you might need, and I can assist you in finding resources for financial help. I'm sure we can get you back on your feet. Maria looks at the lawyer, her eyes wide. She hadn't expected this at all. She hadn't expected anyone to offer help, let alone a lawyer. But there it is, a chance, a real chance to turn things around. She stammers, I don't know what to say. Thank you. The lawyer smiles gently and nods. Don't thank me yet. Let's start with helping you get your life back in order. Before she can even process what just happened, another voice breaks through the quiet. A man in a nearby seat, a small business owner, rises to his feet. I overheard what the lawyer said, and I'd like to help too, he says. I own a local store. I've been looking for someone trustworthy to hire, and you seem like the type of person who could be a great fit. Why don't you come in for an interview tomorrow? Maria's breath catches in her throat. She can hardly believe what she's hearing. This isn't a handout, it's an opportunity. A chance to change everything. But it doesn't stop there. A woman who's been sitting quietly in the corner, watching the scene unfold, stands up too. She walks over to Maria, pulls out a few $100s, and hands it to her. I know how hard it is, she says softly. Please, take this. It's for groceries. You don't have to worry about that tonight. Maria stands frozen, unable to comprehend what's happening. Her world, which had been filled with nothing but stress and despair, has suddenly shifted. People are offering her help. Real help. The judge watches all of this, his lips curling into the smallest of smiles. It's a rare moment of true kindness, and for once it feels like the world might just be a little bit better. The courtroom has become a place of not just judgment, but of compassion. And Maria's life is about to change forever. The courtroom scene doesn't end when Maria walks out that day. What happens next is nothing short of remarkable. The story spreads like wildfire, with people talking about the unexpected kindness that unfolded within those four walls. News outlets pick up on the story, with reporters eager to share the heartwarming turn of events. Maria's case goes viral on social media. People post clips of the judge's decision, sharing their admiration for his compassion and for the community that stepped in to help. Comments flood in, many praising the judge for his fairness, while others celebrate the selflessness of the lawyer, the store owner, and the kind-hearted woman who handed Maria the money. In the days that follow, donations pour in from all over the country. People who had never met Maria are moved by her struggle and her bravery in sharing her story. Some even offer to pay her rent, while others help her find new opportunities. The story sparks a wider conversation about poverty, the justice system, and the importance of compassion. Maria becomes a symbol of hope for many. proof that even in a world full of rules and consequences, there's always room for kindness. The ripple effect of that day's events is felt far beyond the courtroom, reminding everyone that empathy has the power to change lives.